Hey guys, it's Bradley. Welcome back to the channel, man. It is truly great to have you with me today. Today's video is a first look at the all-new BrewBuilt X3. The BrewBuilt X3 is honestly a massive departure in the right direction for what a UniTank should be, in my opinion, and I would imagine lots of yours. This all started years ago with the original BrewBuilt fermenter. It was a UniTank. It uses one of those big band kind of pool filter kind of clamps on top. It was really good. It was nicely built, polished. The price point, I recall at the time, I thought was extremely compelling, but it did have its drawbacks. As the homebrew kind of community, at least the higher end, has all pushed everyone towards glycol and glycol chillers, thinking that's the best way to ferment your beer, everyone started doing jackets. So the X2 had a jacket. It has a little bit more ports, I believe, but still that same big band, kind of like a pool filter type clamp for the top. I didn't have a chance to play with one of those. I did have the original one and used it a little bit. It was pretty good. This is the X3. This is what we're talking about. Let's jump into the video. Research it, mash it, boil it, ferment it, drink it, analyze it, share it. Home brewing is good. What sets the X3 apart really on a couple of kind of different, there's 3 or 4 main kind of things, and we're gonna get into those. Number one is this massive 8-inch lid. If you're not used to these modern fermenter UniTanks that have an 8-inch lid, you're gonna be blown away. But this thing has a single 8-inch tri-clamp lid on top. It has a 3-inch port, and then it has 2.5-inch ports. The 3-inch port, the base model, does come with the pressure pack accessory, which is a nice little touch. It has a floating dip tube with a filter, Kegland, provided by Kegland, it's their component. And it also has a gas post and a liquid post, so you can hook on a ball lock, or whatever you're gonna do to get beer into or mostly out of this thing. You wouldn't want to transfer into it that way because that would just be slow. Anyhow, moving on to the front of it, there are 2 more 1.5-inch ports. I have this one configured. The top you can see here standing next to me in frame. It has the side mounted kind of arm with the silicone blow off tube. They give you a nice generous length of silicone. That's enough. This is the 7-gallon model. For this one, I'm sure the other models have the same length. I really hope that they come out with like a blow-off cane accessory. For me, that's my preferred route. I just think it's easier and better, and I like to work with a little bit more. It's easier to put a valve on there if you want to isolate and pressure ferment later. Moving into that, the most critical thing about this is it is pressure capable, and they have a built-in PRV right here. I believe it's the same size fitting as you find on a Corning keg. This one has a 15-pound kind of safety pressure blow off, if you will. So it's going to start to let go at 15 PSI. Whenever you're using one of these UniTanks, remember there is a lot of energy in compressed gas, compressed CO2, compressed air, whatever it is. Compressed liquid there is, but it's not quite as reactive. So if you're ever going to open this to atmosphere without a valve in place, pull this, make sure that it's gassed off. Otherwise, these will turn into projectiles. Trust me, a lot of us have done it. Just treat it like a loaded gun. In my opinion, you're gonna be fine as long as you maintain a safe and, sensible way of using this thing. Moving on the front, it has 3 ports that are just off camera here. It has a lower port that comes with like a sampling port. This one, they're not offering it with a racking arm or another 1.5-inch valve. That makes sense to me in this instance. Number one, you obviously have this pressure pack lid. You have a floating dip tube. You're gonna get the clearest beer out of this thing. I really think that's the way to go. I would also say that on the 7-gallon here, that the distance between this bottom port and the lower port, the 3-inch port, which we're gonna get to in a minute, it's actually pretty close. And because of the cone depth and the size of this massive lower port, it may not be ideal for a racking arm. In the smaller one, I think the larger 12-gallon would work, and they're up. I think they have the clearance. Again, this is just my hypothesis or speculation of what's going on here. We're gonna go back to the welds real quick. The welds on this thing are all beautiful. Right now I have the jacket on it. I have some B-roll of this guy. It is polished. Really, it's the polish on the outside is really good. But truthfully, with UniTanks, what really matters is the inside finish, because that's what's actually contacting your beer. Now, on the inside of this tank, the polish is exquisite. I could not find any area that was not mirror polished on mine, and I looked pretty hard. With the 8-inch tri-clamp opening, obviously it's easy to get in there from the polish, or easier, and it's just better. So welds, polish, everything is up to snuff. It's built of a relatively thick stainless steel. It's quite robust. Moving on is this lower port. It is a 3-inch butterfly valve. So that's fully opening 3-inch port. Nothing is gonna get stuck in this. I mean, well, if you give me 20 minutes, I'll get something stuck in there. But no, it's gonna allow you to either dump trub, or you can put hops up through the bottom, actually, like they've tried for years with other kind of different products to dry hop from the bottom. With this one, you could actually do it. I think, in my opinion, it's probably about that time with a 3-inch port you can. The other nice thing, and I think the X2s might have had this, or the later versions, is the actual handle on this valve is smaller. It's kind of, it's more of an average size. No, it's just a smaller handle. So you're gonna have more clearance, especially on the 7-gallon, to manipulate this handle and work next to other valves and fittings that you may have. It's something that you may not notice, but it's one of those little details with a handle that actually fits and it's workable. It really lends itself, and it feels just like a much better put together product. Like they've really tried, the folks at BrewBuilt have really tried really hard to get this thing as good as they can, and I really think that they have done almost everything perfect. So again, I like the new handle. It's a little bit smaller. You may have a little bit less leverage. I haven't noticed that to be an issue. You have 4 feet. They're regular kind of plastic feet. These guys just spin on, just tighten them up. You can use them to adjust and level your UniTank. I do recommend leveling these, or if you have it, it's just the way to go. The other big thing, and this is, there are still a few tripod style UniTanks on the market, and they are tippy. There's no way around it. If it's got 3 legs, it's gonna be tippy for the most part. BrewBuilt's always run 4 legs, and they've always had these side gussets instead of using a bottom plate to kind of stop everything from splaying apart if something happens. Well, this guy has a really wide stance. So you know what they tell you, stand with your feet at shoulder width so you have a nice, good stance. And I would say that this guy's feet are at shoulder width, which would have made my coach damn proud. So they've also eliminated that front gusset. The front gusset means there's simply more room to get in the front of this thing and fiddle around. You gotta do stuff, you gotta dry hop, you gotta take yeast out, put it back in, whatever it is you're doing, there's gonna be more room. The other little thing is there's also more clearance here at the bottom. There is more clearance from the new and improved collection jar, and this thing is, it's Kegland's component. They put a sticker on it, it looks good, but this is Kegland's component, which is awesome to see the synergy between BrewBuilt and Kegland considering. So there is just a little bit more room to work. You're able to slide a tray, a plate, whatever you want under there to collect any of that mess. And with this new flex chamber, there's a lot of possibilities. It has, obviously a 3-inch port. It comes with a cap. I've never been one for capping mine back off. So like I said, its usefulness is just so extreme. You're able to take this. I've actually, on Firmzilla product, I have used it for, instead of dropping findings down the top, after I've already wrapped out the last bit of yeast and trub, and I'm pretty convinced it's dropped out, I've actually put the finding in the bottom. Biofine is my preferred method at the moment. I'll put that at the bottom and let that rise up when it mixes with all of the finished beer or wort, whatever you want to call it at this point. I think it's beer when I'm doing this, but tomato. We won't get into that. So that's what I've been doing. I found it to be actually really convenient because I'm already into it. I already have it clean. It just works out nicely. You could also carbonate through this port. It definitely works. I recommend going on the top. You can get the screw on, screw off pressure reliefs. All that stuff just works amazing. It's really, really good. And this system takes full advantage of it. There are some additional accessories. You do definitely want, if you're gonna ferment under pressure, I really recommend getting, BrewBuilt sells it. It's a larger PRV with just a much bigger surface area. It's got that inch and a half full tri-clamp, and that's gonna go onto here, or one of these ports. And if you're gonna ferment under pressure, I do think it's the best and safest way to go. One thing that BrewBuilt does really, really good is they put out lots of information with the product. They have safety warnings, they have stickers, they have nice glossy printed folders that'll tell you, like, this is how you use it, this is the stuff you can get. I've not seen anyone else do it. It's nice that they do it. You don't have to scan a QR code. It's right there in your face and there's no denying it. Obviously you can dry hop with this. You put a hop bong or another dry hopping attachment on any of these ports. Now I believe the hop bong is only 2-inch, and that's gonna get into one little thing I'd love to see different. So you could, there's many options. You could not use this pressure pack and do, a ball lock and a ball lock on both these ports and then dry hop full 3-inch right here, which would work. Or if BrewBuilt is watching, on a future version, they could put a 2-inch flange here. I suspect they'd have to make it a little bit taller so you could clear these posts, but I think it could work and you can go straight to it without having to use an adapter. Personally, I have lots of adapters. Once you have one, you're pretty much set. But that's one little kind of nitpick that I could see. Going back on track pressure fermentation, the base kit doesn't come with a gauge. BrewBuilt offers a nice glycerin-filled gauge. Check that out if you want to get it for your pressure fermentation needs. Another note is, if you look at the side here where the 2-inch heater port is, on the 7-gallon model, that port actually faces up. It's got an upwards angle. That's because the depth of the heaters is just too long for a vessel as small as a 7-gallon. So that's a key difference between the 7-gallon and its larger brothers. It's not to the end of the world. For cleaning, it may make a little bit more work, but not much, as this one is so small. It's really easy to move around. And yeah, I don't think it's a big deal, but I just want to let you know that is a difference that I see. Another set of carryover features is the glycol jacket. That is the name of the game today. Like I said earlier, this one has it. 2.5-inch ferrules for glycol in and out. So you can really hook up almost anything to it. It's super universal and compatible. You can get these things anywhere. Obviously, check them out on Morebeer. And I'm also going to link this below to Morebeer. So if you want to support the channel and you want to see more content from me, if I've helped you out, use my link to buy it, guys. I get a little commission on it. All that goes right back into the channel. Truthfully, all this is funded out of my own pocket. Those commissions don't equal a lot, but I appreciate it ever so much. All right, another carryover that is very welcome and no one else is doing in the space is the thank you pack. It's back again. I don't remember the last time I got one of these and having a hat. This hat is spiffy looking. It's a flex fit hat, so it's good quality. Snap back, it actually fits my fat head without having to go just on one snap. I have 2 left, so that's pleasant. You also get a single silicone coaster, which is better than nothing. You get 2 BrewBuilt pint glasses, as well as a sticker or 2, and a little QR code to scan to tag them in on Instagram and social media, which is awesome. This is one of those little things that honestly no one else is doing. It's a nice touch, and it's one of those little things they've done it to try and push you over the edge. For me, it would definitely sway me because it's a little bit of swag. And last but not least, it has a neoprene jacket. Again, it's hiding the beautiful polish, but it really is going to help everything stay the right temperature, less work on your chiller, hopefully mitigate some of the sweating that goes on with this type of fermenter sitting out in the open atmosphere. One kind of pro tip I want to share with everybody is, obviously I have a few UniTanks that use an 8-inch tri-clamp lid. It is my favorite way to go. It's just, BrewBuilt's doing it. It's the way to do it. But once you get to a flange that's this size on this ferrule, you actually, and we'll just take this off real quick here, do it live. My level up there, who knows what I was doing with that. But pop that big clamp off. And this is a 3-piece clamp, same as that flex chamber there at the bottom has a 3-piece. You always want to use that because that one's plastic and help put better pressure. Some of these larger 8-inch lids, again, that's 2-piece tri-clamp. I don't think they get quite the clamping force and they can be kind of problematic to seal at times. So the 3-inch tri-clamp with these 3 clovers or whatever, the 3 tries, I don't know what it's called. It's just better, the one that has 3 pieces instead of 2. Other pro tip here is this lid. First thing, when you get the gasket on it, you want to put the gasket, hang it up, or put it under the lid and let it kind of get a memory to that flattened shape. That's going to help you seal. The other thing is, put the lid on without a gasket, and you can clock this guy. In certain position, I've found that they will fit better. So you can find a point when they kind of all seat as close as possible. That's going to help you to get a good seal every time. The tri-clamp is a huge step up, but when you get into a flange this size, nothing's perfect. So it might save you some frustration down the road. It's really simple. This one, it took me about a second to find the orientation it likes best. This particular unit, it is straightforward. If you put this off to the side on mine, it still seals, but it's not quite as good. Other thing I want to say is you definitely want to get this. You want to take it, clean it. TSP works really good to get any oils out of it from polishing and manufacturing before you put your first batch of beer in it. I highly recommend that. The other thing is you definitely want to pressure test this. Now, filling it with compressed gas or compressed air or something is honestly pretty dangerous. So a good way to do it would be to fill it with water as much as you can, and then put a little bit of pressure on it with CO2. Maybe 1 or 2 pounds. You don't need a lot. Honestly, the weight of the water is going to let you know. And just make sure you have no leaks. This one I've cleaned and pressure tested. It is absolutely perfect, but it's always good to test any new equipment with water before you put beer or wort in it that you spend a couple hours making. Just trust me, ask me how I know, it happens. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching to the end. I really do appreciate it. It means a ton. Remember, home brewing is good, and I'll see you real soon. What else, guys? You know, it's an 8-inch port. It's huge. It's quite heavy. If this is your first time messing with a UniTank, you know, this thing has all the ports, all the components you need, everything included. It is a lot of pieces. So your first reaction is like, wow, this is a lot to clean. And yeah, it's a lot to clean, but that's the name of the game, and that's homebrewing. We all love cleaning. Okay, yeah, it's back on. There we go. Yes. It's time.